Now let us now begin exploring the meaning of appreciative inquiry by defining the word appreciate. What does it mean to appreciate? When we appreciate something, it means that we put value into it, right? So it is associated with some kind of a price. And when we appreciate someone, we esteem or we respect, revere, or admire or honor him or her. Is that right? So when we appreciate someone, it means that he or she is important to us. When we appreciate something, it means that it is of value to us. We often hear people saying, "Huwag kang judgmental," right? Huh? Why? Because for us human beings, it's really very easy to see the negative about ourselves or about other people, and even in the events happening to us. It is almost so natural for us to see the problem, but not the solution to the problem. So the challenge in appreciative inquiry is being able to wear what they call wearing that appreciative eye. So that we see something good, we see the positive, despite the negativity is happening around. Now, the next thing that we need to know is the meaning of inquiry. Now, what does it mean to inquire? Inquiry is synonymous with discovering what is new or what is better. It is the search for what's working well. What else? It's an exploration of what possibly might be, and the study of the continuous process of knowing what works best, what's more life-giving, and what's inspiring. Now, how do we then define appreciative inquiry? Appreciative inquiry, therefore, is an exploration of what gives life, what energizes, what motivates, what inspires people and the world around us. In our present context of this pandemic, appreciative inquiry or AI is finding what's giving life, what inspires us, and what motivates us to work, to study, and to connect with people despite this pandemic, despite not being able to go out, to go to school, to go to work, despite not being able to meet friends and family members face to face. And appreciative inquiry, it's also the search for what gives life, what motivates and inspires, and is something they say that we do intentionally or that we do deliberately, and what can be changed for the better, keeping in mind that what we appreciate appreciates. Again, it's a deliberate and intentional process of asking what grows, what accelerates. And it's the realization that what we appreciate appreciates. Right? Okay. Now, AI builds on what is working and not on the problems. It builds on what's working well, what keeps going. It focuses on the solutions and not on the problems. So think about this. What made you survive during this pandemic? Your gadgets? What else? Internet connectivity, your phones? These are resources that are working well and making work from home and even online or remote classes possible, right? Or perhaps your job. Your job provided you with money to be able to buy food, medicines, and everything that you need to support your family and to support yourself. So this is something that really worked well during this pandemic. What else? This is very important. Good health. Good health is such a big, big, big blessing during this time of the pandemic. And perhaps a decent shelter for you to be protected from this virus, and the list is endless. So in other words, what worked well? That's why until now, we are healthy and spared from the virus. Okay? Now, according to David Cooper Ryder, no, in the early 80s, he was the one actually who started AI, or appreciative inquiry. AI was originally an OD, or organization development intervention, and later on, it evolved into a tool used in strategic planning, and then later on as a research methodology, and then a management strategy, and now an approach to teaching and learning. No? David Cooper Ryder believed that in every piece of art, there is beauty. I'd like to repeat that. No? He said that in every piece of art, there is beauty. Do you agree? Mm-hmm. So, when you look at a piece of art, even though how abstract that would be, I think, no, someone or somebody will find the beauty in that abstract piece of art. So, in the context of this pandemic, I'm sure within the 5 or 6 months that we have been staying home, there were a lot of wonderful experiences and even perhaps realizations or discoveries, no, that you have made about yourself or about your family members, about your friends, about your loved ones, about your talents, about your passion. No? I'm sure you have discovered a lot, no, during this pandemic. Now, the thing is, we need to ask questions that are appreciative in nature. But let us ask ourselves, what questions do you ask? Or what questions do we ask? No? In AI, it is of prime importance that we think about the questions that we ask. Have we seriously thought of the queries we have in mind before actually asking them? You know, it's good sometimes to put ourselves in somebody else's shoe before we articulate our question so that we know how would the other person feel, right? So, let us ask ourselves the following questions. And as I am enumerating these questions, I would like you to examine yourselves. No? Is the question you are asking encouraging the other person to open up and freely express his or her feelings? Or is it discouraging that, he just decides to be quiet and not say anything at all? Or are you asking a question because you wanted to probe, or because you were hurt by the other person and you want to get even? Hmm? Or have you checked your motives when asking questions? Do you want to put the other person in a bad light or to embarrass him or her? Or are you asking a question to clarify something? In other words, how do our questions lead us to the future that we want, or to a desired interaction or relationship that we want? Do the questions we ask bring out the best in a person, that gives life in a relationship and inspires the people in our group or community? So I think these are some questions that we could ask ourselves. Now, let me give you some examples of AI questions that we can ask ourselves and others during this pandemic. So, instead of asking questions like, why are people so undisciplined that they can just stay home? No? Mga pasaway, no? Why can't our officials provide everything we need? So instead of asking these questions, why can't we just ask ourselves the question, how can I help stop the spread of the virus? No? Or instead of feeling bored, what else, restless, and feeling there's nothing else to do, no, during the lockdown or during this pandemic, ask yourself the question, how can I discover more about myself while I'm physically distant from others? No, while I cannot go out, what more productive things can I do? No? How can I maximize my time while I'm home? Or maybe you can spend more time for sleeping, have more quiet moments for reflection and introspection, or perhaps you can have the much needed opportunity to explore more about who you are apart from others, apart from your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your office mates or your colleagues. Maybe you want to discover other talents that you have been wanting to do before, but since you were very busy, you didn't have the opportunity to discover them. Like, for example, playing any musical instrument, learning free online classes, cooking, baking, putting an online business, gardening, no? Sabi nila, plantito, plantita, what else? Putting up your own YouTube channel, reading a book, listening to music, the list is endless. This way, you develop and capacitate yourself more. In other words, in asking AI questions, we consider asking, what do I want more of, not less of? What do I want to start and not to stop? What do I want to create, not remove? What do I want to support and not prevent? And what do I want to reinforce and not weaken? Maybe what? More of time spent with family, more opportunities to learn new things, maybe to start your diet plan, gardening business, or maybe to create perhaps a new strategy, no, of relating with your family members, better relationships, to support more sustainable activities and advocacies to promote health and environment, or to reinforce some values and strengths that you have discovered about yourself during the pandemic, like what? Compassion, collaboration, care, quality time with loved ones. Okay? So these are the things that you should consider asking yourselves. Now, my question is, and if you have a pen and paper with you, I want you to jot down your answer, to these questions, or to this question rather. What do you want to appreciate, or what do you want to grow at this time of the pandemic? What do you want to appreciate or to grow at this time of the pandemic? So in appreciative inquiry, we focus on what appreciates. Okay? We focus on what appreciates. Now, we are done with the meaning of appreciative inquiry. We move to the 4D cycle of appreciative inquiry. Okay? Now, here's an illustration of the 4 phases or the 4 Ds of AI, which are first, to discover, second is to dream, third is to design, and fourth is destiny. Now, let's discuss each of these phases and find out what each phase entails. So the first phase, or the first D, is discover, appreciating. What do we discover in this phase? We discover something that gives life, what inspires, what motivates, what is worth appreciating. In the context of our current situation, perhaps what's giving you life is one significant person, maybe significant other, because he or she is the source of your strength. Or maybe what inspires you to work despite the work from home arrangement are your coworkers, right? Or perhaps what motivates you to get up in the morning is that you have to work for your family, right? And now you see the value of life, health, family, career, and these are what inspires you. So these are the wonderful things that hopefully we can discover during these challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay? Now, I want you to get a paper and a pen with you, again, as I said earlier, and answer the following questions. It doesn't have to be an essay. Maybe you can just jot down some phrases or some keywords. The first question that you need to answer is, what was or what were the best things that happened to you during this crisis? Or what were your blessings during this pandemic? And because of these blessings, you have a reason to survive and the reasons why you survive. And what motivates you to help make tomorrow better for you, for your family, and for others. Okay? I'll give you a few minutes. You may answer just one of those questions because uh, actually these questions mean the same thing, right? So what are your blessings, the best things that happened to you during the pandemic? Okay? Now, the second phase is the dreaming phase or the innovating phase. What do we dream about in this phase? We dream about what might be. We dream about what possibly might happen. We dream about our desires. And we dream about how we envision ourselves, our family, our community, our school, the world, our country. So these are the things that we dream about. In the context of our situation during this pandemic, perhaps we dream about what more sustainable environment after this pandemic, or perhaps your family will be much closer to one another because you have spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for how long, how many months now, and that people will become more loving, more caring, and that people will be more health conscious, right? So that's something that we dream about. Okay. Now, this time I want you again to get your paper and then answer the following questions. What do you want to see in yourself or your family or your community or even the world after this pandemic? And if you were to make 3 wishes for yourself, for your family or your community or even the world, what would it be? And what beautiful story about this pandemic will you tell your children, your grandchildren, 10 or 20 years from now? Okay? You may jot down your answers. Maybe 3 wishes for yourself and your family, or what do you want to see in yourself or in the world after this pandemic? Okay? Now we move on to the third D, which is design, or we call it co-constructing. Now, what do we design in this phase? We design what should be. What is the ideal? Now we have to transform our discoveries and our dreams to reality. This is now the phase where we transform our dreams into something concrete by utilizing the best of what is, the strengths that we discovered in the first D or in the first phase, and those that inspire, that we discovered in the discovery phase. We co-construct because we collectively and collaboratively work towards achieving those that we wished, those which we envision ourselves and our community to be. So we design something like we make a plan, right? So based on the things that we discovered, our strengths, what inspires, and then going on to the dreams, the wishes, now we come to something more concrete, which is the planning stage. So what now? What do we do? That's the design phase. Now, here are other questions that you need to think about. First, to achieve the person or the family or the community or the world that you envision after this crisis, what do you need to do? See, you have to make some concrete plans. How do you do it? When will you do it? And what resources do you need? These are the questions that you should ask at this phase. Then the last D is destiny or sustaining. Destiny refers to the actual and real implementation of what you dreamed about in the first D and what you designed, utilizing the best of what is your strengths and what inspires as you discovered in the first phase. We sustain that which empowers us, that which is better, that which is life-giving. And during the course of your implementation, no, should there be a need that something has to be changed, something has to be revised, then you need to improvise so that things will be better. As what St. Jerome said, good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. I repeat, good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best.